Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I stand before you today as the prosecution in the case against Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Over the course of 17 years, he terrorized our nation with a serious deadly bombings targeting innocent individuals and spreading fear in the name of his twisted beliefs. In my closing speech, I would like to provide a clear and thorough review of the case against Kaczynski, as well as a review of the evidence presented throughout this trial. First, let us review the case against Ted Kaczynski. As the prosecutor of the Unabomber case, I would describe Ted Kaczynski, the man behind series of bombings that killed 3 people and injured dozens more, as a highly intelligent and calculated individual with a distorted worldview. Kaczynski was a highly educated individual with a PhD in mathematics from the prestigious University of Michigan. First, let us review the case. Despite his academic achievements, he harbored a deep-seated hatred for modern technology and industrial society, which he saw as a corrupt and destructive to human freedom and dignity. His writings, which he sent to various newspapers, publications in the form of the manifestos, reveal his extreme and radical views on the technology, government, and society. Kaczynski's actions were meticulously planned and executed. He targeted individuals and institutions involved in advancing technology and the industrial society, so despised. He used homemade bombs disguised as everyday objects, and such as packages and letters to deliver his deadly payloads. His bombs were designed to maim or kill their targets, causing widespread fear and panic across the United States. The evidence is overwhelming that he was the Unabomber, responsible for the series of bombings that rocked our country for so many years. From the cabin where he lived and worked on his bombs to the journals where he detailed his heinous plans, every piece of evidence points to the one man, Ted Kaczynski. Now, let's review the evidence in this trial. The forensic linguistic evidence we presented clearly identified Kaczynski's age, origin, and mannerisms, including his unique writing style, spelling, grammar, and linguistic features. For instance, the Unabomber published a manifesto, which name was Unabomber Manifesto, Industrial Society and its Future. In that book, he argued against industrialization and industrial civilization and backed anarchism, which put nature at the heart of daily life. According to his writing and linguistic style, he was using outdated adjectives such broad or chic to describe women. What does he intended by that? Then, the term Negro is used by him to describe African Americans, and it's since 1995, those phrases almost sounded like they were spoken in 1950s movie or by Frank Sinatra. And immediately away, that made us, the other seems older to us. And most important evidence is Kaczynski's brother, David Kaczynski, provided a second written sample to the FBI for the investigation when Kaczynski's sister-in-law viewed and found similarities about the manifesto that had been released and observed his writing style. It came to light the paper was a really, really well-written draft of the manifesto. And it seems like Ted Kaczynski took this job really seriously. Furthermore, in the manifesto, there were some linguistical indicators about the newspapers, which were published in Chicago in 30s, 40s, or 50s. Also, there were some phrases in manifesto that is using in Chicago district and bank. First for bombing was reported in Chicago. And this evidence leaves no doubt that he was the author of the Unabomber and the letters that accompanied his bombs. And additionally, we need to use clear stories to understand the gravity of Kaczynski's actions and impact they had on his victims and our society as a whole. For years, Kaczynski sent explosive packages to people and organizations that he deemed to be part as a technological elite that was destroying the natural world. His victims included people from all walks of life, from academics to airline executives to computer store owners, for example. Each time he struck, he left a trail of destruction and despair in his wake. One of the victims was Hugh Strickton, a computer store owner in California. In 1985, Strickton was killed when he picked up a package that had been left outside his store. The explosion shattered his body and left his family devastated. Strickton's wife later wrote about the experience, saying that her husband's death had forever changed the trajectory of our lives. The victims of Unabomber's attacks were not just the people who were injured or killed. They were also the families and friends who were left to pick up the pieces and try to make sense of the senseless violence. They were the communities that were terrorized and forced to live in fear of the next attack. And we believe that the evidence we have presented is enough to get on the jury and our client's side and hold Kaczynski accountable for his crimes. While the defense has attempted to paint him as a victim of mental illness or misunderstood genius, the evidence speaks for itself. He's a cold-blooded killer and he acted with a clear motive and plan. Imagine if one of these victims was your loved one, your relative one. How would you feel? That's why Ted Kaczynski must be punished to the fullest punishment he can receive. Even that will not be enough, because the scars of his attacks will remain. For the victims and their families, the memories of the bombings will never fade. But in their pain and suffering, they have also demonstrated the resilience and strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable tragedy. In conclusion, we urge you to find Ted Kaczynski guilty on all charges. His actions caused nothing but pain and suffering, leaving behind shattered families, scarred survivors, and nation in mourning. We have presented a clear and compelling case, and it is time for justice to be served. Thank you.